Picture for the cover roll. Hello, everybody, and welcome to What the Hell Should I Watch? Second video of January, still in a little bit of a dead zone as far as when it comes to new releases. But I did last week tease American Fiction, so that will be my first video. That will be my first review of the episode. First, thank you for watching the video. If you could like the video and subscribe, that would be amazing. So let's head into it. American Fiction. This is the new film from Cord Jefferson. He wrote and directed this film. It stars Jeffrey Wright, Tracy Ellis Ross, Sterling K. Brown, who almost steals the film in many ways. But this is really Jeffrey Wright's movie, as he plays a novelist that's kind of sick of the profiteering off of black stories and black lives and the stereotyping of it. Just the fact that thug stories get elevated and they seem white friendly all the time, these stories. So he, out of frustration, basically writes one of these stories and it gets picked up like that, and it becomes sort of like an escalating out of control, but also a one-upmanship that is kind of perpetrated by Wright's character as well as his publisher, played by John Ortiz, his book agent. And I love this movie. This is a full-on masterpiece, in my opinion. Even has stuff in it that I think would be harder to take for people that maybe are a bit jaded when it comes to it. Some sweet storyline in it, and it's almost like a B story or a C story in it, but I feel like jaded people would be like turned off by it. But I really dug into this part of the story, and I really loved it. Like I said, Sterling K. Brown is absolutely incapable of being uninteresting. Every scene he's in, and he's kind of going through this flailing new discovery existence, and he's just kind of falling apart through it, and it's just really well done. And I really think that this is that black cinema film to hold up, that has a voice and has something very important to say. And I really think people should watch it, because I think it is the most important movie of 2023, in my opinion. The next film is new this week. It's called Freud's Last Session. This is the new film from Matt Brown, whose previous film is The Man Who Knew Infinity, the mathematician movie with Dev Patel. Kind of a limited release that came out. This is a limited release as well. It stars Anthony Hopkins and Matthew Good. And basically, you know that Hopkins plays Freud in it, because of course he does. But this is the last session that the famous Sigmund Freud had. And it's all speculation, which kind of takes me out of the movie quite a bit, because the speculation in this film is that Matthew Good's character, C.S. Lewis, was the final meeting that Freud had on his books, even though the last meeting Freud had on his books was not publicized, and only close people, being his daughter, really knows who was that person. But at the head of it all, Anthony Hopkins and Matthew Good are two of the best character actors in the game today, and Matthew Good is consistently and constantly underrated, in my opinion. He is, like, people who know film know who he is, but as far as a mainstream audience, I think it's harder to pinpoint what his name is. And I just think he's been doing amazing work for well over 2 decades now, I would say. And this is like a great showcase of that. I just really wish that the film wasn't so dull in places and just kind of lost me just in the monotony. Like the tete-a-tete stuff, when they're really heated, and it really works. But when they're just kind of like languishing in Freud's like kind of separation from reality in places here and there, it starts to lose me. But It is gorgeously shot, and I think it would appeal to an older audience. I just think, and especially people that like biopics, I just think that this one kind of loses me a bit. I will say that there is a casting of J.R.R. Tolkien in this, and he's played by Stephen Campbell Moore. And I just think it's just absolutely brilliant casting. Like it was really, I mean, it's so quick. It's a very quick moment, but I was like, that was actually pretty solid. That was better than the casting of Nicholas Hoult in that Tolkien film, which also wasn't very good. I think this movie was better than the Tolkien movie, if we're being honest. Oh, also interesting enough, Anthony Hopkins played C.S. Lewis in the 1993 film Shadowlands for Richard Attenborough. Sorry, Sir Richard Attenborough and Sir Anthony Hopkins. Got to get all that stuff right, you know. They're knights after all. All right, the next one up is Eileen. This is the new film from William Oldroyd, whose only other film to date is Lady Macbeth, which kind of baffles me that because I saw Lady Macbeth, I want to say that that movie came out in 2018, so it's a 5 year gap for him to make this new film. And again, he's relying on the brilliance of a really great actress because, of course, the lead of Lady Macbeth was Florence Pugh. That was the first time I saw her in a movie. I guess that's the first time everyone saw her in a movie because I believe that was her debut. But again, Eileen is driven on the performances of two great actresses this time. One lead actress in Thomasin McKenzie, who you may have seen in Last Night in Soho or Leave No Trace or Jojo Rabbit. She's just a great actress on the cusp of becoming B A-list. She's going to be A-list really soon, and I think Eileen is another stepping stone to get there, but we'll get into that in a second. The supporting role and the other actress that really leads this film in a great direction and gives it some real meat to it is Anne Hathaway, who I think is entering some of the best work in her career, some of the best performances in her career. And I love the sort of femme fatale that she's doing here. Like, not really a fatale, but more like she's drawing in this character of Eileen. So I'm kind of spacing here. So Eileen, basically, the story follows Thomasin McKenzie as Eileen. And it takes place in, I think, the 40s, 50s era. And basically she works at a correctional facility and is very mousy, very demure, keeps to herself, and but also under the surface, like sexually charged to like a bursting degree. She lives with her father, played by Shea Wiggum, who is amazing in every scene that he's in, and it's not a good relationship at all. It is emotionally abusive, leading to possibly physically abusive, but it's not a good relationship. So she becomes infatuated with the new person that comes into the facility, which is Anne Hathaway's character, and it starts to bring her out of her shell more. I'll kind of stop the synopsis there because I don't want to give too much. The story really does need to open up to you, especially if you're going to get to a third act, which may or may not lose people because it is a little bit wild in its scope of where it goes. But I dig this film a lot. I mean, those three actors alone, Mackenzie, Hathaway, and Wiggum, are incredible. And also has I want to say her name Siobhan Fallon. She's kind of like a supporting character actress in a lot of stuff, but she plays one of the more contemptuous workers at this facility towards Eileen. I really just like her aesthetic. I've always enjoyed her aesthetic every time that she's on screen, so I dig her a lot in this one too. It's really hard to hold this movie up to Lady Macbeth, which is a freaking masterpiece. Eileen does fall short of that bar. I would give it probably around a 3.5 out of 5. Like I love the aesthetic. I love the way it's shot, which was Ari Wagner did this one, who also did Lady Macbeth with Oldroyd before, but she also did Jane Champion's Power of the Dog. She also did In Fabric for Peter Strickland and The Wonder, which also starred Florence Pugh. She just shoots this one so beautifully. And I mean, the opening shot and the opening scene, I really thought just sets a really interesting tone for it and gives it that 40s serial kind of look to it. And I dug everything about that. All right. So next up is well, let's just say the spirit of Stuart Gordon and his Lovecraft adaptations like From Beyond or Reanimator. That stuff I think is alive and well if we give that stuff to Everly director Joe Lynch. And also podcaster with Adam Green, Joe Lynch. Because Joe Lynch did Suitable Flesh. This is an adaptation of a H.P. Lovecraft short story, The Thing That Was Left on the Step, I believe it was called. And it stars Heather Graham, Barbara Crampton, Bruce Davidson's in this movie quickly. This movie is pretty wild because it is absolutely taking that tone of the early to mid 90s horror, especially that despair horror that that Stuart Gordon really honed. And I mean, you have the jarring kind of overdone score. The melodrama may be a little towards that cheesier B side, like that heightened feel of it. But basically, Heather Graham plays a psychologist who um, one day takes on a very frantic new patient, a young man that says that he is basically being hunted by an entity that wants his body. So, yeah, this is full on body horror, body swap, and all of the blood, gore, and despair that you expect out of something that Lovecraft would make, done through a filter of Joe Lynch, a guy that is just so ingrained in the horror genre that he knows exactly what to do with this story. It's almost like when I was talking about Eli Roth's Thanksgiving last week. Like, it took so long for a project like that to be given to the perfect individuals, and it almost like once you get to the end credits, it's like a no-brainer. It's like, well, yeah, they should have been doing this the whole time. So that's exactly how I felt about Suitable Flesh. It is so schlocky in ways, and I really, really love that. Barbara Crampton is freaking treasure, and just every moment with her is just a genre doubloon. Like it's just so much fun. And Heather Graham, her performance is really bold. It's sex kitteny in a way that I think really works because it is reminiscent of a movie like I will almost like a horror movie I would find on like Skinamax in a certain way because there are kind of those scenes because she has some pretty heavy scenes with this young actor. I'm spaced on what his name is and I apologize to him. But there's also another sex scene with Jonathan Skaich, who plays her husband in this one. But she's also embodying all these different body swap moments and these different souls being in her body, we'll call it. And it is pretty multifaceted. And this is a girl that came from Twin Peaks, for doing weird stuff. Heather Graham's always game, and you can tell that she's so willing to go for the gusto in this film. I will also say that there is a moment in this scene in this film where they use a backup cam as like as just like a mode to tell the story a little bit. I don't want to get too deep into it because it's a little bit spoilery, but for those who see it, I mean, tweet me at the Steve Dead or find me and let's geek out about this because I think Joe Lynch has just done diabolical with this backup cam and just absolutely made it incredible. Like I think my mouth was slack open when I was watching this scene. So those who have seen Suitable Flesh, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And please tell me if I'm wrong. I don't think anything like that's been done with a backup cam before. It's so divisive, and I think it's so good. So Joe Lynch, you are a glorious MFer. You really, really are. All right, and one of the last new releases that I received was from Wellgo USA. They sent me the DVD of it. They didn't make the transition for this one to Blu-ray. It is just a DVD. It is called The Flying Swordsman. It's also known as The Hidden Fox. So if you look for an IMDb or you look for it on Rotten Tomatoes, you're not going to find it under The Flying Swordsman, which feels like kind of like a stock name essentially. But yeah, so it's called The Hidden Fox. So the story basically follows this main hero, the Hidden Fox, as he's known, and he is for the security of the land. He is trying to take down these 8 storied villains. And this is like kind of ancient China, and those big wushu fight scenes, which look really, really good. Like they did a really, really great job. There's a really great windswept quality. There's scenes with snow and leaves falling off trees. Like it has that whole anime kind of scope to it. But every time that they come in and they try to make CG massage things along, it loses any good quality to it because you kind of start to notice that it is a lower budget film. And it also, in the storytelling, it just loves to just do this. Okay, well, let's go back 2 hours. And then we'll go back 2 hours, and then we'll go back 2 hours. And I'm sorry, you're not Tarantino, and I don't want to see a Tarantino-esque type thing in my wushu martial arts film. Really, like I'll give it a try if you're doing it for a reason that's interesting to me or that you're doing it well. None of those are the case for this film. And I also will put a nail in the coffin on the Hidden Fox or the Flying Swordsman or whatever you want to call it. Welgo would like to call it the Flying Swordsman. But I will say that there is a scene with hyenas. They're fighting hyenas, and all of them are CG. All of them have the same repeating hyena laugh, and it's so corny and so badly done to the point that I was chuckling to myself. I was trying not to laugh full on, but I was definitely chuckling to myself because it just threw water on any fire that this movie had going for it. So yeah, I really did not dig anything about Flying Swordsman. I almost called it the Flying Dutchman. See, it's already that far out of my brain. All right, with the holiday season and everything, and not a lot going on Blu-ray or in the theaters, I decided to check out something older. I went on to Prime Video, and I watched Julia Ducournau's Titane. And this movie is divisive, genre heavy, focused, definitely for a certain niche of audience, but without a doubt, a freaking masterpiece. This movie rules. Agatha Roussel gives an just otherworldly performance that is just the writhing baseline for everything that you're seeing through this film. Like there is nothing like this film in anything that I've ever seen. And I know Ducournau did Raw, which is a movie that is very separated and very in its own category as well. But Titane is like, I feel like it's another step, and not only like another step, but like a riser. It is so heightened and so beautiful too, disturbing and gets in your skin. And Vincent Lindon is also, I mean, a veteran actor who has so many great performances under his belt, but this is such a freeing performance for him. And seeing some of these dance scenes are just incredible. I don't even want to try to explain what Titane is about for anyone that hasn't seen it before, but just know if you're going to watch this movie, there is like some disturbing amounts of body horror and stuff towards the Cronenbergian side of thrillers. Just know that you're getting into something completely wild, because I think it's best to go into this movie with kind of no knowledge of what's going on. But it's just, I'm just so astounded by this film, and it's a film that you just will always think about. Like it just will always stick in my head, especially that final scene, which just almost broke my brain. It's just so disturbing, but also so horribly beautiful. I don't even know how to classify it. It is just so wild. And I also really like how this is like a dark and disturbing story, but it also has these like threads of dark comedy that spiderweb through it and rear their head here and go away there and come back. And just holy hell, what the hell was this movie? Like, I know it was amazing, but holy hell, how do you even write that? Like, just to get in Julia Ducournau's head for a second and just be like, what's around here? Because like, what's next? Like, seriously, how do you follow this movie? I am like just at a standstill with it. Really, absolutely. All right, let's do some television. We'll quickly bounce through some things. So this week, Disney Plus is going to be releasing Echo, which is sort of a follow up to Hawkeye, the series from from not this past Christmas, but the Christmas before, and this features Alaqua Cox's character of Echo or Maya, and what happens after that series. So at the end of the Hawkeye series, spoilers, she shoots Kingpin and you believe he's dead. So she basically goes home, goes to her hometown, because this is a very indigenous infused production, and there's so much pride throughout all three of the 5 episodes that I've watched so far, because they didn't give me the other two yet, but that's just another story. And it is a hard R show with some incredible sequences in it that are reminiscent of the Daredevil series on Netflix. So the best thing that you can do, and I know the Bourne movies, they are great, but they kind of screwed things up because they moved everything really close. So you can't exactly see what's going on. But Echo, they brought it back, they let it breathe, and they let the action speak for itself. And it is mind blowing. Like each fight scene is just so well executed. I loved everything about this show. Like I'm not being a Marvel shell on this one. I really, really, really dug this show. I don't know what its placement in the Marvel Cinematic Universe really is because they're being so vague on it. They're calling it a Marvel Spotlight show, which they're saying that is Marvel Cinematic Universe adjacent, which I'm not sure about that because Hawkeye appears, albeit in a little bit of a flashback in this series. I mean, the Kingpin from the Marvel Cinematic Universe is in this series. I don't see. I'm just really kind of confused with what Feige and the powers that be at at Marvel Studios are trying to do with this one, because it's kind of, I don't know. I'm a little confused on that. But I do, like I said, I love the indigenous voice that's in this one. There's a lot of crossover with Reservation Dogs and Dark Winds in this with the production and writers. And Zon McCutcheon, I think his name is. He's briefly in this show in the beginning. But Davery Jacobs, who plays Laura Dannon on Reservation Dogs, is kind of a mainish supporting character in this one, and I adore her. So when I saw her pop up in it, I was like, yes, because I mean, I'm all about Reservation Dogs right now. I'm late to the game. The wife and I are currently watching it and in love with every single episode. So to see her show up in it, I was like, yes. So Echo, I think it's a hit. I'm going to make a little quick stop on this Netflix one. The new season of Breakpoint is coming out. This is a tennis-centric sports documentary in a series form from Netflix. And largely, the show follows Australian tennis player Nick Kyrgios. And I mean, I know my way a bit around tennis. I don't watch it regularly, but I'm a sucker, like a music documentary. I'm a sucker for a good and well told sports documentary. I mean, I watched Coach Prime a few weeks ago and enjoyed that. And I also like Formula One Drive to Survive. I was late to the game on that one. Not really a big Formula One racing guy, but I do like the drama and the reality in the show. So I do watch that. And then there's Braun, which is hosted by Keanu Reeves. That one's on Disney Plus. Enjoyed that one as well. But I don't know, there's something about Breakpoint that I find fascinating. I think it's because Kyrgios is an interesting character to base your show around, because he feels like sort of an outsider to the sport, at least the way that I'm interpreting him. He's a guy that's not dedicated to going to every tournament. He only plays certain times a year. He's brash. He's controversial. He's outspoken. He's very much like he's almost like the sports entertainer wrestler of tennis. Like he's playing to the crowd a lot. He's admonishing the crowd a lot. Like it's interesting stuff, and it's stuff that I can definitely get behind and watch more of. So I just started Breakpoint. There's a new season this week. Yeah, I think I might continue on this one. All right, let's get to some geek outs. So this one, I know not a lot of people are like, I'm going to go out and buy a volume of Family Guy, but I've already started the collection. I was 3 volumes deep, and now they're starting to package them in like 5-season boxes for like $30 ish. I wasn't quite yet there yet, so I bought volume 4, really cheap. It was like $11.99 on Amazon Prime. Like it was just an easy buy. I got that one. It was just, I'm just trying to fill up that collection. And I just wanted to bring it to this show just for, if anybody does like Family Guy, loves physical media like I do, because I also have the Star Wars movies that they made and everything. Um, they're like blowing them out now. They're really cheap. I want them to start doing this with the Simpsons seasons, the Simpsons box sets. Although they won't. I know they won't, because those ones are paper pull out. Some of them had the plastic clamshell that were all the character heads. They won't do that with the Simpsons. So at least Fox is doing it with Family Guy. I'm hoping that they might do it with other shows that I'm still trying to collect the back end of, like How I Met Your Mother, My Name is Earl, stuff like that. So it's a good sign that at least one of their shows are going for pretty cheap right now. And also, this should be noted that the season volume I'm talking about is volume 4, which was the season that the first of the first season where the show was resurrected. So the show was canceled after the first 3 seasons. Volume 4 is the beginning of the new run. Yeah, so that's where it is in the timeline. Late arrival that I got from Warner, from Michael at Warner, who hooks me up. I love this dude so much. He's a great dude. And he sent me The Nun 2. And this movie came out, and I guess, I don't know where I am on the mailing list for Warner Bros., but I never received it. But that's okay, because I got the 4K version, which is way better looking. It's so pristine on that screen, and especially with this film, because I really love the character design of Valak the nun. Like, I just think she's so creepy looking, and Bonnie Aaron just delivers. And actually, speaking of Bonnie Aaron, she sued just before this movie came out because they were using the likeness without paying her. And I'm wondering how that lawsuit went. Did Bonnie take him down like Valak takes people down? I hope so. I really hope so. Another thing that I like about these nun movies is it's a showcasing within the Conjuring universe for Tessa Farmiga to do her stuff, which is great because her mom, Vera, is Elaine, is it Elaine Warren? Ah, the Warren wife that does the Conjuring movies. Vera Farmiga does those movies. Tasia does the Flash, the early prequel movies. Like, it's just like, it's a nice tandem. Like the Farmiga women are like well represented by James Wan in his Conjuring universe. I kind of dig that. But I will say that this movie is diminishing returns. There are those cool atmospherical elements that make the film work. I enjoy Storm Reed a lot, who's in this one. She was also in Searching, that computer interface thriller. So she's kind of on a high note with me right now. So I'm enjoying seeing her and stuff. And there's a little bit of it in the trailer that takes place at a newsstand, and it is the most effective set piece in the entire film, in my opinion. And I will say, this movie is missing Damien Bachir. He's what I really liked about the first Nun movie. And even when that guy goes over the top, it still feels like it has gravitas and weight to it. I don't know. He's just got a quality to him. The last one is one that I bought for myself. It's called Max Manus, Man of War. It's a Norwegian World War II film directed by Joaquin Ronning and Espen Sandberg. This is the movie they did before they got international acclaim for doing the at-sea movie Kon-Tiki, which ended up getting them the Disney job of making Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Men Tell No Tales, which I believe was the last of the was it the last of the Pirates movies, or was it Stranger Tides? Was it Rob Marshall or was it these guys? I don't know. They're flipping around in my head, but I like these guys as filmmakers when they're together. And this movie rocks. I mean, basically it follows Max Manus, who was a saboteur during the war, basically taking down Nazis where he could. And it stars Axel Hennie, who American audiences will know from Ridley Scott's The Martian, and because he's really good in that movie. But recently, if you saw the film Zizou, you would have seen Axel as one of the villains of that film. And I mean, if you haven't seen Zizou, watch freaking Zizou like right now. It is one of the best action films of 2023, and I just loved every second of that film. But this movie rocks. Like Max Manus Man of War, it has such great pacing to it, such great thrilling suspense to it. You wonder if he is going to get caught, or just the dire consequences coming down on him. I really, really dug this one. Obviously, Norway dug this one. It was the biggest hit. It was one of Norway's biggest hits in theaters at the time. And yeah, it's just a movie that came out. I think I might have been working at a video store when it came out and kind of pushing it on to people, but really nobody talked about this movie. And like I said, these guys didn't hit it big till Kontiki. So yeah, I had to buy this one. So I may have spent like $20 on it, but in my personal opinion, worth every penny. And I can't wait to watch it again on a good sound system for sure. All right, so that is it for this week on What the Hell Should I Watch? I just want to give a quick preview that next week's video, I'll be kicking it off with the new Blumhouse January horror film. We already know how those go, unless it's, Megan, which was killer. But this is Night Swim. Yeah, we got haunted swimming pools up in this piece. Yeah, but it's got Wyatt Russell, so I'm so in. For sure in, because Wyatt Russell rocks. If you're not watching Monarch right now, come on, watch it. Anyway, you can find me on Twitter, because I won't call it the other thing, Instagram, Threads, and Letterboxd at The Stevel Dead. My website, stevestebbing.ca. You can find this YouTube video on YouTube under the account Steve Stebbing. And you might also find this on shiftheads.ca or at the Shiftheads group on Facebook. I'm Steve Stebbing. Again, if you could give a like and a subscribe, that would make my life just that much better. I would love you so much for it. But I love you guys anyway for watching this video. So until next time, where we're talking Night Swim. Thank you, and talk to you next week.